So we have a few minutes for question and answer. So over to you to think about the questions you want to raise.
My name is Bob Harris. I'm a member of the Environment Group in the House of Commons. It's a question for James Lancaster. The others might want to join in. I live in London, and I have some buildings which run on ground source heat pumps and air source heat pumps. But it's inappropriate to put solar panels on those roofs. So I can't push them towards zero carbon buildings. What I'd really like is, what I'd have liked you to do today was to make an offer to us, which would have been around the idea of solar allotments. I would very much like to have a 25-meter squared allotment from you in your area, where I could have 25 square meters of solar PV. I'd like a 10% return on it, and I'd like to have, say, a 40-year life expectancy on that site. And I'd like to take my children there. I'd like to have a picnic there in the summertime. Yeah. Why aren't you offering such a scheme to the rest of us in the UK?
Okay. Well, to start from the beginning of your statement. I mean, you say it's inappropriate to have solar installed on the property that you currently have, though clearly there are new technologies coming along with, for example, improved building integrated photovoltaics, which will actually make photovoltaics more attractive under certain circumstances. It may not meet you, but I'm just say, technology is changing. We're not talking about doing everything now, and we know that there are shortfalls in the technology. There's also a limit to how much you can actually choose to present in 15 minutes. And clearly, when I mentioned the knowledge of the brownfield capacity, for example, that we have within the city, and there are a number of schemes around ground-mounted solar, including community schemes which are actually within the city, would do exactly what you're suggesting. I confess I had not thought about the idea that you actually might create such a park and then offer it outside of the city. I think it's a fantastic idea. Yeah, it's a great idea. I will take that back.
Yeah. You are. There's a check on the
table.
There
you go. Fantastic. Thank you. That's a brilliant idea.
Julia, do you want to add anything to that? Have you come across anything like that
No,
before
it sounds a fun
in your
idea.
travels? Okay.
If you'd like some space on the roof of my main building, I can't guarantee the same sun as in Bristol.
No, it may not have quite the same kind of picnic feel. Lovely though the middle of Birmingham is.
Great views.
So we've got a couple of questions. I think I can see one lurking in the middle over here, and then after that we'll take one at the back. Gentleman waving his arm at the back. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Paul McIntosh from North Dorset District Council. I always remember a few years ago I attended a conference where a Chinese academic indicated that if they had the same level of car ownership we do in the UK, there isn't enough lead in the world for all of the batteries. And I was just wondering, has the Committee on Climate Change kind of looked at the embodied carbon, with creating one of these additional vehicles, in the sense that can we kind of do it? And has it also looked at the material implications and looking at resource limitations in manufacturing these automobiles?
So Julia, one for you, I think, in the first instance.
We've done quite recently a detailed study on carbon footprinting, and one of the things we chose to look at the carbon footprint of, was the car, because it's such a key part of the transport emissions reductions. So if you look on our website and our carbon footprinting work, you'll be able to see the comparisons between the true life carbon footprint of a conventional internal combustion engine vehicle, a plug-in hybrid and an electric vehicle, and our projections based on expectations. So they're not predictions, but our sort of projections based on sort of what we think are realistic expectations of what those might be, the comparisons in 2050. Clearly, it's not our role as the Committee on Climate Change to look at all of the resource issues globally, but you're right, there is an important issue around that car ownership. It's quite likely that somewhere between 2020 and 2030, global car ownership will double. So we'll move from 1 billion vehicles to 2 billion vehicles. It's even possible that by 2050 we could get to 3 billion vehicles. And that's why I think it's absolutely critical we don't get hung up on the fact that there will be one automotive technology. We need as many low-carbon automotive technologies as we can have. And I think that biofuels, that electric, and that hydrogen will all play an important role. And if anybody can invent any new ones as a challenge to our young people in our universities particularly, we need those as well. Because in a world of 2.5 to 3 billion cars, we, as you say, we need to be well aware that we don't want to be stuck with any one particular scarce element as being critical to our mobility.
I mean, and just to add briefly, I mean, there is quite a lot of work going on in general about what you might call strategic materials or strategic metals and strategic minerals, of which, of course, this is a clear example. It's not just relevant to electric vehicles or whatever, but it's relevant to electric motors in general, which, of course, we use in many forms and in many other items. But it's a very fair question.
Yeah. Nigel, if I'm just may, just one quick. I think, as a general point, anybody who spends much time in consideration of green technologies, you almost certainly get into this question, which is really, how green is my green technology? And there are a lot of things out there at the moment which are really still very much in their infancy, and there's a lot of work to be done in order to deal with some very obvious issues that arise with a number of green technologies out there at the moment. If we look at solar panels, I mean, they're reliant upon rare earth metals being extracted in China. And so there's a lot of work to be done in that area to find better, greener technologies to deal with some of these issues.
Okay, so there was a question at the back. Yep.
How do I'm Martin Bierman. I'm a Borough Councillor at Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council, and I'm very excited by what's happening in Bristol. The only thing that I have a difficulty as a politician is getting people to be inspired by green issues, not least my political colleagues who don't see it as the biggest vote winner, and when it comes to when it matters, they sort of put it low on their profile. I'd like to know whether perhaps having a mayor who's switched on by these topics has helped Bristol in that respect, and beyond that, what else one can do on the political arena. And then if I may just quickly, for the Freight Transport Association, put a rather more personal question as a small business person. Can it be explained to me why so many companies insist on bringing out goods, and then when it's wrong, they bring the new goods but don't collect the old goods at the same time, so they make 3 journeys when only 1 was necessary? Is there a way of getting over that logistical problem, which seems bizarre to me when you're making more journeys than you need? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll let Rachel think about that while you take the question
Shall I take the question on George Ferguson?
Political engagement.
It's been invaluable having George Ferguson actually stand up and say and support the whole Bristol Solar City initiative, to talk at the top level to the leaders of the other unitary authorities and actually to get their buy into this initiative has been absolutely essential in supporting our ability to actually take this forward and create some of the exciting projects that are now on the drawing board. I mean, to the extent that, George has been in office now for a year, and in fact he gave his State of the City address on Monday of this week, and one of the statements he made was how he saw the city developing, and said that I see Bristol developing now as a solar city, right alongside him saying, and a city which is very, very supportive of its young people. So actually it's an agenda which in our region is right up there with the most important agendas.
And it gets young people out to vote. Which most local council elections don't.
Yeah, completely agree.
Okay. Rachel, you've had some time to reflect
on
logistics optimisation.
Yeah. It's a difficult question, and I can't comment on individual cases. We would like to think that logistics networks and hauliers are trying to be efficient as possible. Fuel is one of the most significant parts of their operating costs, some 40%. So I'm sure most companies would prefer to limit their fuel use. Yes, I'm sure there are improvements that can be made, and yeah, I take your point, and there is lots of opportunities where companies are trying to reduce empty running and trying to sort of backhaul loads after they've made deliveries. So yeah, there's still some way to go.
Okay, I think we'll take one last question, and it's here. So, sir.
Alan Asbury from Aylesbury Vale Council. A question for Rachael. Living in Oxford, I sort of regularly take the diesel electric buses into town, and I wonder where we are in terms of diesel electric or indeed pure electric for things like RCVs, refuse vehicles. Is that a long way away?
Electric and hybrid technology for HGVs is fairly limited. There are some examples, particularly in urban centres. The issue is that if you've got your battery, that's a lot of weight and it reduces the payload on your vehicle, so it's not quite as favourable. Where we're really seeing the interest is in natural gas and biomethane, as I mentioned in my presentation. And there are sort of refuge companies, for example, Veolia, who have done a number of sort of dual fuel trials. So they've got diesel and they've got gas, so they can switch onto the gas, and that can help reduce emissions. I think there's probably lots of different fuels and technologies that can be used within the industry to reduce emissions and actually also improve air quality. That's also important. So there'll be some cases of electric and hybrid technology, but I think on the whole it's probably looking more like gas will be a good option for HGVs.
Okay, thank you very much. Perhaps we could just thank the panel. Thank you.
Thank you.